These stories are taken from the book Great Little Engines Again. Rusty and Elizabeth. Rusty is a little diesel engine who works on the Scullery Railway. He helps keep the line clear. Recently, he discovered an old abandoned line. Scullery and Rheneas told Rusty that the line was called the Scenic Line, where both of them used to take passengers along that line many years ago. But when hard times came, they were forced to close the line, and was then forgotten. Rusty was intrigued and decided to make them happy, so he worked so hard clearing the old line. But he often forgets about his other jobs. One day, Rusty returned late to the yards. The Dink controller was cross. "Sorry, sir," Rusty's driver said. "We were just restoring an old line." "I am aware of that, but that line is in bad condition. It takes too much of your time. Just leave it be, Rusty." Rusty was upset. What would Scullery and Rheneas react to this, he wondered to himself. There was nothing Rusty could do. As time went by, Scullery and Rheneas eventually found out. They were both very sad as they came to work at the quarry with Rusty. Rusty could see that they were not happy. The Dink controller came to the quarry with important news. "We are going to be blasting for the next 2 weeks," he said. "It won't be safe for you here. I'll have to find you other work." "Please, sir," Rusty said, "may we use the 2 weeks to repair the old line? That would cheer up Scullery and Rheneas up." "There are plenty of line workers available," his driver added. The Dink controller agreed, "but you have only 2 weeks to complete the job," he said sternly. The old scenic line was covered in rocks and branches. The tracks were broken in several places. Elizabeth, the vintage lorry, thought clearing out the line was ridiculous. "What a waste of time," she sniffed. Rusty was worried. "I'm not sure we're able to get it done in 2 weeks." "We can't give up," Scullery said. The engines worked harder than ever, but time was running out. The next day, Rusty had a clever idea. "If only we have a lorry to help us," he sighed. Elizabeth stopped. "Well, I couldn't possibly help you. I'm a vintage lorry." "But we do need a special kind of lorry," Rusty teased. "I am a special kind of lorry," protested Elizabeth. "It requires hauling," said Rheneas. "I can haul," said Elizabeth. "And pull heavy branches," added Scullery. "Well, of course I can pull." "So you do it," said Rusty. "Well, of course." Elizabeth was as good as her work. She hauled rubble and pulled branches from the line. "Thank you, Elizabeth," said Rusty. "We could have done without you." "I know," said Elizabeth proudly. The Dink controller inspected the line. He was very impressed. "Well done, Rusty," he said, "and well done, Elizabeth. We will open this line immediately." Rusty was proud. Rheneas and Scullery were very happy. When the summer season started, Scullery and Rheneas took passengers along the scenic line just like old times. Rusty was glad that both of them were happy, and Elizabeth felt very proud that she is able to help out. The Runaway Elephant. The little engines are very excited. A new park was being built. They were working hard to get the job finished on time. Duncan was feeling impatient. "Get to move on, slow coach," he puffed crossly to Duke. "You're so slow, I finished first," Duncan boasted to Ivanhoe. Ivanhoe was cross. A little later, he met Duke at the new park station. "Duncan thinks he's fast," Ivanhoe steamed, "but he's just a bossy boiler." "Better safe than fast," Duke agreed. Duncan drew into the station. He was all puffed up and pleased with himself. "I finished first," he wheezed proudly. "In that case," said the Dink controller, "I got another job for you. You ought to collect the elephant on the sidings and take it to the park. Yes, sir, chuffed Duncan. This elephant is very important. You must be very careful. When Duncan saw the elephant, he was surprised. Why, it's only a statue, he said. This is an easy job. You must wait for the brake van, said the station master. The statue is very heavy. Nonsense, huffed Duncan to his driver. I push heavier loads than this plenty of time. Let's go, Duncan, said his driver. But we must be careful. So they left, but without the brake van. But Duncan wasn't careful. He was impatient. We'll show them how fast I can be, Duncan whistled. We'll deliver this statue and I'll still finish first. Duncan started to speed up. Soon Duncan was going as fast as his wheels could carry him. His driver was starting to worry, so he tried to brake, but Duncan was out of control. He was scared. He had never gone this fast. The statue's weight was pulling Duncan with it. People waved and cars tooted as Duncan sped by. Suddenly, a tractor trundled across Duncan's line. Look out! Shouted his driver. Slow down, whistled Bertram. I can't! Duncan cried as he shot past. Whoa! Elephant Park loomed ahead. Duncan's driver used all his strength to apply the brakes, but it was too late as it hit the buffers. The statue flew into the air and landed in the lake. Luckily, no one was hurt. In no time, Bertram came with the crane to lift Duncan back onto the rails. The think controller arrived and was very cross. I told you to be careful. You should have waited for the brake van, he said sternly. I'm sorry, sir, muttered Duncan. He felt very embarrassed. Duncan was prepared in time for the grand opening. He was still surprised to see the elephant standing in the lake. Everyone loves the elephant in the lake, dear, said Mrs. Percival. Even if it was a mistake, added the think controller. Hooray for Duncan's mistake, cheered the engines. Duncan blushed and went a deep shade of red. Trusty Rusty. One day Rusty was crossing an old wooden bridge. He is checking to make sure it is alright. But there was a big bump in the track. Rusty's driver stopped to check the bridge. There are cracks in the supports, he said. That could be dangerous, cried Rusty. It might fall down if it was not repaired. And they hurried off to warn the other engines. The engines were waiting for their coal when Rusty arrived. Don't use the old wooden bridge, said Rusty. It's dangerous. Duncan, who was about to leave, didn't hear it. Duncan, sorry Rusty, can't stop. I got work. But you should know, tell me later, he said, and he puffed away. He didn't even wait for his coal. Rusty hurried off to tell the think controller the bad news. Thank you. I will send Mr. Hugh to investigate the bridge. Meanwhile, nobody is to use it. Mr. Hugh put up a sign, line closed. The engines had to travel a different way. Meanwhile, Duncan completed all his jobs and needed more coal to get home. But when he arrived at the coal bunker, it was empty. Bother, I won't get home without more coal. Where's the nearest bunker? On the other side of the old wooden bridge, Bertram said. But you can't cross. Rusty says it's not safe. Oh, great. More problems then. I'd rather get more coal than listening to his things sound worse than they are. I'm sure one trip across the old wooden bridge won't hurt, added his driver. When they got to the junction, Duncan's driver removed the sign, and they set off towards the bridge. This was a big mistake. Suddenly, Duncan hissed to a halt. I'm out of steam! He had used up all his coal. What's that? He asked nervously. His driver looked out. The old wooden bridge was starting to collapse. Rusty, called Bertram. Duncan's gone across the bridge. I better check he's alright, he said. But the cracks in the supports are getting larger. A beam snapped. Timber pieces splashed into the water below. Help! Whistled Duncan. I'm going to fall! But Rusty was on the way. Soon he reached the old wooden bridge. Duncan had never looked so scared. Rusty chugged bravely onto the bridge. Careful, gasped Duncan. Soon they were coupled up. Hold on, said Rusty. Ooh, shouted Duncan. The little diesel pulled him off the bridge just in time as the bridge collapsed. The Fat Controller was cross with Duncan and his driver. That was very irresponsible. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir, both said. And Rusty, you are very brave. Yes, Rusty, you really are a useful engine. Thank you, sir. Rusty felt very reliable too. Skarloey Snow Under. Snow came early that year. It is heavier than usual. It is difficult to work for the little engines. One day, Skarloey set off to the mines with some empty trucks. Meanwhile, there was trouble at the mine. The winch that hauls the trucks up and down wasn't working properly. Skarloey reached the cliff face. High above him were the mine yards. That snow looks dangerous, said his driver. The sound of Skarloey and the trucks could cause an avalanche. I'll set off an emergency cab and see what happens. Skarloey watched as his driver prepared. Then they ran over the cab. The bang echoed around the valley. But nothing happened. Good, said his driver. All's well, we'll have a cup of cocoa and then make our way. High above them, all was not well. A long line of full trucks was about to be winched down the slope. They had just started their journey when some empty trucks became derailed. The winch groaned. Break it! Snap it! Shouted the trucks. And they did. On! Faster, faster! They giggled. The snow-banging buffers will stop them, said a workman. But he was wrong. The trucks crushed through the buffers and landed onto the snow near the cliff face. Skarloey and his crew heard the noise and looked up. Avalanche! They cried. They tried to get away, but the snow quickly covered them. When the snow blew clear, there was no sign of Skarloey, who was buried deep inside the high drift. Sahandra was coming up the line with a train of workmen when he saw the pile of snow. Then he could see trucks right in front of him. That must be those trucks from Skarloey. Skarloey is buried under some snow. Don't worry, Skarloey, we'll get you out, called out Sahandra. The workmen quickly set to work. But no one knew that the heat from Skarloey's engine had helped to make an igloo. Whoa, look at this. It's a snowball. It's a snow house. It's an engine, called out the workmen. They cleared away the ice only to find Skarloey's driver and fireman drinking cocoa as if nothing had happened. Ooh, it's good there are not snow under, Skarloey called. But would you mind pushing me to a shed? Of course, Skarloey, said Sahandra. Skarloey was soon warmed up in a shed. He felt very comfortable. It is good to be out of that snow, Skarloey said to himself. I don't like being snow under for good. After all, it's too cold.